to build that catalog a little bit, but we couldn't really break through into the cross country and track and field realm with coaches. We just weren't really getting any responses. And so Jimmy and I were like, well, we're both JUCO guys. There's a lot of cool JUCOs out there, and I was heavily recruited by an NAIA school coming out of high school. Why don't we dive into the NAIA, the JUCO, and Division Two and Division Three? And lo and behold, that led us to Coach Souter. And so we had Coach Souter on, and it's been quite a run since then. We've had a lot of JUCO programs. We've had a lot of Division Two, Division Three, and NAIA, as well as Coach Kraftic from the athletic director at your university. So we're just again trying to have cool conversations with people like yourself to present conversations to that 18-year-old self, Jimmy and I ourselves, that we wish our guidance counselors would have had with us because who knows, we might have ended up somewhere in Kentucky or in Eastern Oregon or someplace unique. And we're big on getting out of the bubble, at least for 4 years, to experience some different places and get a bigger worldview. So we just want people to know about, if you're a college or high school athlete and you're committed to being a college athlete and maybe didn't hit your peak or didn't get those looks from those D1 schools, that there's a lot of cool places and a lot of interesting interest pieces out there, stories and programs that are doing good things. And so here we are.
Yeah, I did listen to the podcast with Kraftic just to kind of get an idea and a little, you know, make sure I was prepared for this. But yeah, you guys did a great job, and I'm honored. I'm flattered. This is my first rodeo doing something like this. So
Awesome. Well, we're excited to chat with you. And as we said, we're big fans of the Patriots, and we're following from down here in the South. But we love everything that you all got going on, and any chance we get to help out or promote or get the word out about what y'all are doing there in Williamsburg, we want to get it out there. So here we are.
awesome.
All right, y'all. It's Monday night. The Airey Bros are back. We're doing our thing, and we are going belly to belly again tonight. We're in the world of the NAIA with Coach Corey Ruff from the University of Cumberlands. Jimmy and I love the University of Cumberlands down there in Williamsburg, Kentucky. We've had Coach Souter on multiple times. We've had Coach Chris Kraftic, the athletic director, as well on. And so now we're going to check off that wrestling box. But before we get into an intro, please make sure you dive in to our catalogs on YouTube, subscribe, follow the Airey Bros on Instagram. If you feel so inclined, you're getting any value out of what we're doing, drop us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. It helps us reach all the wrestlers, runners, and student athletes looking for the right program. If you're watching live, hit that like button and leave a comment. If you're listening on podcast platforms, rate, review, and subscribe to keep the good vibes rolling. And as I mentioned before, if you're getting any value out of anything we're doing over here, please give us a little value back. Jimmy and I love our coffee. If you'd like to support the show, please give us a hit on that link, buy us a coffee. Every sip keeps the Airey Bros going strong. If you're looking for coaching in ultra marathons, or maybe you got a couch to 5K, head on over to Black Sheep Endurance, hit me up, and we'll get you started on your journey. I'd love to help you crush those goals. All right. Tonight's guest is from the NAIA powerhouse, University of the Cumberlands, Coach Corey Ruff. He's in his 4th season at the University of Cumberlands. He led UC to a 14-5 record in the 2023-2024 season with 2 NAIA All-Americans and 12 national qualifiers. He's a former head coach at Lindsey Wilson for 12 years, where he built the program from scratch, leading them to 9 top 5 NAIA finishes and 2 national runner-ups. He's a 5-time Mid-South Conference Coach of the Year with 9 NAIA national champions and 51 All-Americans under his leadership. In 2021, he coached the NAIA Wrestler of the Year, and in 2017, he was the NAIA Coach of the Year. With a proven track record developing elite athletes and wrestlers at a national level, Coach Corey Ruff, thank you for your time this evening. It is an honor and a pleasure to chat with you tonight. Welcome to Airey Bros Radio.
Thank you, boys. Men, Pardon me.
I just turned 49, so I'll take the boys.
Well, 51 here. So,
All right. You know how I feel then. So, Coach, before we get into it, the floor is yours. Anything you would like to promote, share, anywhere you want recruits or parents of recruits, they want to get more information about the program and the University of Cumberlands, the floor is yours.
yeah, I mean, we're on the social media outlets like Instagram is, Pat's underscore wrestling, I believe. And, Facebook and Twitter as well. Just search UC Men's Wrestling on Facebook and likewise for Twitter. But the kids all like the Instagram. So that's probably the place to go right now.
Absolutely. And y'all do a great job with your social media, Coach Craftick, and what you guys got going on in the athletic department there. It is really cool to see. And, I think a lot of times people think NAI, JUCO, that, they don't have the sort of resources or do the things that you see with the Power Four schools. But, some of the best stuff that Jimmy and I have seen from a content creation has come from programs outside of the Division I ranks.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this institution has got advantages that a lot of people would like to have, and they take every little detail pretty seriously, and it's high level. In terms of small college athletics, they do it at a very high level.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And like I said, we've been fans since that first conversation with Coach Souter, and I think we turned Jimmy into a bit of a cross country fan this fall. He was following along on a Saturday or a Friday afternoon, I think it was, following the
Yeah.
championships and following the ticker and rooting for the Patriots. So we're excited to hear what you got going on the mats. And I guess the best way to start this is, we all have our origin stories, how we got into the sport and how we got into coaching. Mine is unique, and Jimmy was following me around as a little kid. There's 11 years between us, so his origin story. He might not have had much of a choice because he was just in tow and going to matches. He had his little headgear and his little singlet and doing all those things. So his next step was to get in there and do it himself. But what was your origin story? Are you a Kentucky guy? Are you from Kentucky? How did you get into wrestling, and how did that lead you to coaching?
Yeah, no, I'm originally from Wisconsin, born and raised, and I think I grew up in a great, a really good wrestling rich community, small town, middle of Wisconsin, Arcadia, Wisconsin, and I, as you grow up, I kind of learned that my dad was pretty good, and I thought, well, gosh, if he was good at it, I should probably try to be good at it too. So I was just you know maybe didn't even realize it until I was 5 years out of high school that I'd probably been wrestling most of my life for my dad, just to make him beam with pride, and then there's other factors, of course, too. But that's really kind of the gist of it. My dad was actually ahead of Jimmy Haynes, who Jimmy Haynes represented us in the gosh, I think the 1979 World Championships. I think he was a silver medalist, and then we boycotted the '80 Olympics. But I'm not saying that Jimmy was our lead guy there. He might have been, but um, I grew up with knowing that and knowing that my dad was actually the varsity guy and in front of Jimmy. It like meant a lot. And my dad was super humble, so um, yeah, that's kind of the origin, and wrestled pretty much my whole life. You weren't allowed back then. You weren't allowed to start until you were in third grade competitively. I think my dad tried to sneak me into a tournament when I was in second grade, and we were denied. But I took to it pretty quickly, and then also got really scared of it. In my junior high years, I had kind of beaten the local legend, and I'm in sixth grade, right? But it really, like, looking back on it, it scared the crap out of me, and I stopped giving my best effort almost immediately at that time of my life, and plotted to go out for basketball the first year, my first day of practice, my freshman year, just to avoid the pressure that came with being pretty good. And luckily, I had a smart coach, and he talked me out of that. And and I had to wrestle JV for a couple of years, and I was really small. I was a tiny kid, so um, that was difficult. And then finally got my first crack at varsity as a junior in high school, and did pretty well, but I was still undersized for 103. And then finally my senior year was able to fill out the weight class and had a pretty good season and yeah, and then turned my back on the sport because I was done with it. I thought, like this is, I I gave it everything I got, my pretty much my last year of high school wrestling, and it turned out pretty well. I was a state runner up in Wisconsin, and I was content with that, and stopped answering the phone calls, back then on the rotary phones, and I was, I got recruited a little bit, but I just kind of, it just wasn't what I wanted to do, and then 5 years later, it was exactly what I wanted to do all over again, and I got invested in coaching at my alma mater, and then just the goals just started going up and up, and I wanted to be a college coach, and been doing that now for over 20 years.
So,
Well,
go ahead, Jim.
Coach, we are on the same wavelength because you're talking to two small guys who were both undersized in high school. Rich was a 4-year, 103-pounder. I was in between 3 and 12 my senior year. I would have been perfect 108, so I wound up going 12. But we can definitely relate with being undersized guys and kind of coming into our own later. But you mentioned kind of starting your coaching career off at a high school. At what point did college kind of come into, hey, I'm going to coach at the college level?
Man, probably my greatest source of inspiration. I lost my best friend. I was in my fourth year of coaching high school. And previous to that season, I had lost my best friend to a heart attack, and it was really traumatic for me, really emotional, and had to deal with a lot of stuff in my head there. I had to deal with a lot of personal demons, and yeah, and it was, I guess it kind of dawned on me at that point that I was a young coach. I was still in my, late 20s then, or, mid to late 20s anyway. And I was pushing kids to that next level, which, I really wasn't pushed to that next level. It wasn't like what guys from my high school did, even though we were producing state champs a lot. We weren't really, pushing kids to the college level. And that was kind of a little bit of my motivation when I was coaching high school, was to do that. And we did. And then we had put a couple kids into the next level at UW Lacrosse anyway, and there was a few others prior to that, in the Division III ranks, and I was pushing some others. The following year I had my last year coaching high school, and I just realized, man, you knucklehead, you're pushing these kids to college and you didn't finish your degree, and it was just something that I'd kind of developed right then and there. Like, I think I want to coach at the college level. I want to coach at the highest level. Well, the highest level is the international, right? But um, I just kind of set the goal that I know I'm pretty good at this, and I was passionate about it. And just like the sliding doors of life, those little things that happen to you, um, or happen, are a big part of your life. And so I was like, man, I need to put my money where my mouth is, and go back to school and finish my degree, and chase this, see if there's legs to this dream of mine. Can I be a college wrestling coach? Can I do it without a college wrestling resume? Knowing that I had forfeited that. I'm probably the only guy in college wrestling with a head coaching title that, didn't go through the 5-year grind of wrestling in collegiately. So I've had to do it the long and hard way. And if you ask the people closest to me, they know that that's kind of my way.
Well, Coach, that's a very inspiring path, and I think a lot of people need to hear that because Rich and I, lifelong athletes, Rich coached a lot of running, even coach wrestling. I've coached wrestling, but sometimes you look at some people's credentials, and I know it's got me from I'm not qualified enough. They've done more, but that didn't seem to stop you. I'm curious about any advice for someone maybe listening to this podcast right now who loves wrestling, right? Or they might be in the same situation as you were, maybe didn't go didn't get pushed down the wrestling path in college, or maybe they don't have the credentials they think. Any advice for someone who has the passion and wants to coach but doesn't know where to start?
Just start, like anything else, just start. I mean, if you're passionate about something, I feel like you can't teach that. Like, I can't coach passion. You either got it or you don't. And that's something I feel like I've had an abundance of. I'm a guy that gets locked into whatever I'm doing and I don't let anything distract me. Um, whether that's a conversation or reading a book or whatever it may be. And but man, just start. Like, believe in yourself. I think the biggest thing that prevented me, well, okay, I'll back up a bit. I always knew I was a coach. Like I kind of knew that from a really early age. I was fortunate enough to be hired as my local community's little league coach when I was, young. I was just a junior in high school, and I was tiny. I was like, I got mistaken for the little leaguers all the time because I looked so immature, and I was immature. But that experience right there, like, jump started me, and I think I thought about it a lot. Like I wanted it bad. I wanted to be that little league coach, and didn't know if I would get it, but then I got it because I think I had some people fighting for me behind the scenes. I know I did, and that opportunity, like, provided me at least a little bit of a platform to find out if I was any good at it. And I was good at it, but I made a lot of mistakes too, and just with the maturity issues and stuff. But and then you start to think about it as I graduate high school and this, that, and the other, and you realize there's not a lot of financial advantages to being a coach. Like you're going to struggle, and so I didn't want to pursue that, and I didn't. I was I was always pretty good in math, and so I was pursuing an engineering degree, and just struggling with things, but. Um, again, it was just like I would do a couple of years of school and then quit, and I would do a year of school and quit. I mean, I was a quitter. When it got hard, I didn't do what I'm pushing my athletes to do. So, but I don't regret any of that now, because I have so much wealth of experience of failing and doing it wrong that I get mad at, my athletes when I see them doing something I used to do, and I'm not mad at them. I'm mad at my younger self. And then I learn how to channel that properly, into helping them. So, but yeah, I probably took the longest path you could possibly take. And I don't recommend doing it that way. It's nice to have a plan, but man, I wanted it bad, and I prayed on it and I visualized it a lot, and I believe that's why it happened.
Coach, you got a lot of synchronicities here with Jimmy and I with everything that you're saying from getting into coaching and realizing you were pushing kids, positively pushing kids in the direction of wrestling in college because maybe that wasn't something that was presented to you, and that's kind of why we do the coaching we do and why we have this platform here and doing what we're doing is because we feel like there were some things that were left out in those guidance counselor meetings, and we want people to know about places like the University of Cumberlands and other schools that we've talked with that there, if you're willing to be a student athlete, we can find you a place that can support your dreams and goals and aspirations. And so, I'm just kind of sitting here smiling inside, listening to hear everything that you're saying. I'm curious, you're coaching at the high school level, you're getting kids into the college level, and then you realize that this is what you want to do and you want to coach. So you said you decided to go back to college. So fill in those gaps a little bit. Did you go back with, you mentioned you were engineering type stuff. Did you go back and get an engineering degree, or did you get something more specifically geared towards coaching? And how do we get from coaching high school wrestling in Wisconsin to Lindsey Wilson in Kentucky?
Yeah, man, there's so many little stories and those sliding doors that I mentioned before. But yeah, I went back to UW Stevens, or I'm sorry, UW Stout, in Wisconsin. They had a Division III program. They weren't like the powerhouse, like, lacrosse and Stevens Point were, a lot more known or a little bit more of a powerhouse. And probably my chicken ways, I chose a team that wasn't going to be that, difficult of a path for me to make an impact. I knew I was good enough. And so I went to Stout. And I'm there on orientation day. I'm walking in there, whatever, like a 23, 24-year-old student, knucklehead. And I'm on tour and they're showing me the weight room and they tell me, like, they say, this used to be our wrestling room, but we dropped our wrestling program. This is like, it's not pre-internet, but the internet was pretty new and not everybody had it. So I didn't even know that the wrestling program hadn't started. And I was like, golly, this was like part of my motivation to come in here. And, I fancied myself as a pretty decent baseball player. So I was like, well, I came here to play sports, so I'm going to try baseball. And I did that, for several months and at least through the preseason. But that's kind of where that started. And then, I'm in my second year at Stout and I'm doing well, actually. It's the first time I've been a good college student for a while, but I made, mistakes, in the public and decided to run home, because it got scary and I ran back home and, and that's where like I had, my best friend that I told you about that passed away. He'd been asking me for years, like I want to say 4 or 5 straight years in a row, like the Christmas break time, like, hey, just come out, roll around with the guys and help them out. And I'm like, no, man, I'm not doing it. I know me, and I'm going to I'm going to love it, and I'm going to want to control the room. And so I just kind of refused to do it, for several years. And then this year in particular, my last year at Stout, like he talked me into it, and I was just like, all right, fine, man. I'm just kind of sick of you bugging me about it. And I went up there, and sure enough, I had a blast. And the head coach offered me a position on the staff the next year, after that practice, and that's where it started, man. That's literally it. And I was like, man, I got excited about it. I was like, man, I was only in the room for 2 hours and you just offered me a job. And, and just, I'm really grateful for, all those little things. Carl McKeith saw something in me in a very short amount of time of having experience with me. Granted, he had my best friend probably vouching for me and speaking highly of me to get me on staff. But yeah, man, that's a little bit of the gap. And then, now I'm coaching for 4 years and going back to college. Well, I literally, I had a couple of kids that were wrestling for, our high school, not just for me, but, Carl McKeith, who I mentioned, was the head coach then. And it was just obvious to me that I needed to move on to something a little more in my wheelhouse. I wanted to be the man. I wanted to lead the program and didn't want to be an assistant. And I knew I'd have to suck that up for a lot of years at the college level just to build my resume, since I didn't have the college accolades. So that's what I did, and I got lucky. Tim Fader, welcomed me on his staff at lacrosse, and that also was, to be honest, I went there to compete. I had a year of eligibility left as a 30-year-old man, and I went there to compete. And I still probably wasn't doing things right, and probably didn't have my body in the best position. I won my wrestle offs, but they didn't give me a spot, and there was 70, 80 guys trying out for a spot. I won my 2 wrestle offs, but I didn't necessarily wrestle the starter or anything like that. And I wrestled through injury. So at about Thanksgiving time, I just pulled the pin, said, yeah, I'm not going to chase this athletically anymore. I'm going to chase it from the coaching side. And Fader, God bless him, he offered me a position, and it just so happened he left the program after that season. We finished 4th in the country, in Division III. I was, whatever, 5th, 6th on the coaching totem pole there. But man, everybody left. The whole staff kind of left, and we hired a new interim coach, came in, and I kind of, catapulted up the coaching depth chart real quick, just by chance. And probably passion, was, something that had to do with that. I still had to win that coach over. It wasn't like he just handed me the job. It was unpaid. Man, I didn't get paid, like not a dollar. I didn't get anything. I was just doing it because I knew I needed to build my resume and I loved it. And so I'm in year 2 there, and I'm kind of like second, third in command. Well, I was definitely third in command, but one guy was basically in charge of recruiting. And I was, a little more hands-on with the technical side of the sport and helping with practice and such. And then and this is Nate Score I'm talking about. Nate was the head coach at lacrosse, and him and I did another I was there for my third year. He was there for his second year. And I'm getting the years a little bit confused. I think we finished 6th my first year I was there. Then we finished 4th, and then we finished 2nd. We had, lost to Wartburg, and we were right there with them. Like, there's literally like 2 matches that swung the wrong way, or we might have been able to take a title away from the Bergs. But we didn't.
Shout out to Coach Miller.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, so that's where I kind of cut my teeth at the college realm, and then. Nate Score, the head coach there, left to take a junior college job at Ellsworth Community College in Iowa, and like he called me. I mean, I knew this was possible, and he was keeping me in the loop, and now he had a paid assistant position for me, which was something I desperately needed. And it was going to give me an opportunity to, eventually finish my degree there. Because I wasn't a student while I was at lacrosse. I started out doing that the first year, but then I got too locked in on the passionate side of coaching that me doing schoolwork and being a coach wasn't working for me, or at least that was my excuse. Didn't manage my time well enough. But anyway, went down to Ellsworth there, and me and Score coached, a junior college program that, needed help rebuilding. Didn't do a whole lot the first year, but then the second year we finished 5th in JUCO, and that was at the same time where I was wrapping up my degree in psychology through a satellite campus. At Buena Vista had a satellite campus on Ellsworth's campus, so I knocked out I knocked out 39 credit hours in about 10 months time. And graduated with a 3.65 GPA. But that was just those 39 credit hours. They didn't take my transfer credits, which were horrible. My GPA was not probably about a 2.25 maybe. But yeah, I buckled down. I had my mind was focused on what I wanted to do. Finished my degree. Told Score I was resigning. And just hit the, just was constantly checking the available wrestling jobs. And I didn't care if it was high school or college to start. I knew eventually I wanted to be college again. And it took several months. Like, there was a lot of jobs and job opportunities. I had several interviews and several offers, for an assistant position or a grad assistant position. And I even got offered one head coaching position out east in Massachusetts at a D3 school, but it was a part-time position that was only like 15 grand a year. And there's no way I could make it. And so I just turned all those opportunities down. And then lo and behold, Lindsey Wilson, they posted their job. Like, when I thought it was over, like, I was devastated. I was miserable. I had no coaching job, and it was October or September anyway. And then the Lindsey Wilson job got posted, and it was kind of everything I had hoped for. It was an opportunity to build a program from scratch, and it was in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky. Not that I ever envisioned that. I would have loved to have stayed in the Midwest or somewhere up north, but I was willing to take chances. At this point in my life, I wasn't scared anymore. I was just excited. And so I did, and I was still single. I didn't have a family yet, so I was 100% locked in, and nothing else mattered. And that's basically all I did, until I, did start a family somewhere along the way there about 10 years ago. So, but yeah, Lindsey Wilson, man, they gave me an opportunity and helped grow me and nourish me, and I was there for 12 years and didn't really plan this out coming to University of Cumberlands at all. It just was God's plan. I found my faith too. Devoted my life to Christ, halfway through that journey at Lindsey Wilson, and that, really led me here. Like, that's the easiest way to explain it.
Coach, you mentioned being 30 and going back out for the team when you were 30, and you also mentioned those 39 credit hours or whatever the number was that you did that last year. I'm sure that comes in handy, both those experiences as a coach, having older guys come back out on the team or just crunching down and getting all those credits. I don't think that's something people think like, oh, you might need that experience as a coach, but I bet you that perspective helps a lot as well.
I mean, it sure can. I just used that experience about, with an athlete here that just this past week, his career's over due to concussions. Super talented kid that actually, comes from Daniel Cormier's program in Gilroy, California. Um, and it's just, I use everything, man. I mean, I'm sure I forget some things, but I'm not afraid to share my mistakes at all. And I don't really glorify the good stuff I've done so much. I try to stay as humble as I can. Um, but it certainly helps. Just everything. I feel like, I mean, my motto now is everything matters, and face your fears. And I can use those stories to, like, I faced a lot of fears there going back as a 30-year-old man, and man, they didn't like me. I mean, they did not like me. I had a couple athletes that were on the team that were, a part of that program, and but I was in the way and of some of the starters and the prominent members of that program, and so I wasn't, and I was the old man. I wasn't the cool 21, 22-year-old kid. So um, there was a lot of uncomfortableness there, a lot, and and I probably chose the easier path. To be honest with you, I probably chose the easier path going the coaching route, than rather than grinding through it. And but for real, man, I tore the muscles in my back in October in practice. I had a bad cramp, and somebody power half me, and that ripped the muscles bad. And then when I came back around Thanksgiving, they retore a second time. And I'm like, no, there's not enough time for me to crack this team right now, and I know what my role is if they'll have me. And so I just give up that dream, to chase another one. But I was probably chasing the coaching one the whole time.
And bringing up that you started the program at Lindsey Wilson and you were there for 12 years and had a lot of success there. And then you went to the University of the Cumberlands. And at the beginning of the podcast, we brought up the social media and how there's more resources at the Cumberlands. What's that like? Is that like night and day having those resources from building a program from scratch?
Yeah, well, in fairness, I had an abundance of resources at Lindsey Wilson too, to start. And man, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you if it wasn't for them. Now, the difficult part is it's a conference rival. So, and where my loyalty could come into to question there. But like, if somebody would have told me at any time in my tenure at Lindsey Wilson that I would be coaching at another institution in Kentucky, let alone the Mid-South Conference, down the road, I'd have laughed at them. Like, I'd have been the first one to put somebody in their place. Like, you don't know me at all. But yeah, I was, I kind of felt like I got to a point in my career at Lindsey Wilson where it was just like I had kind of plateaued. And I think I also got content. I got stale. The resources were the same. There was, no matter, kind of what I did, it just kind of felt like that's all I was going to ever really get there. I wasn't going to be able to acquire any more. And that's okay. I felt like there was maybe more there that I could have earned or been given the opportunity to take advantage of. So it really, like, this happening was just me praying, like, kind of a lot. Like, I was really questioning whether or not I wanted to continue to coach at all, and if I should, pursue a master's degree and maybe try to move up into administration. But I bet you guys can relate to this, man. You know what else is really scary is, like, when you're an athlete or you identify yourself, like I've identified myself practically my whole life as a wrestler or a wrestling coach. I don't know anything else at this point, So it was like, I don't know what else to do. I can do it, but will I be passionate about it? And I really questioned whether or not I had any passion for anything else, other than some other form of administration, like a director of ops, maybe for a Division I school, or maybe working for Flow Wrestling as a commentator, or those were other things. It had to have something to do with wrestling, most likely, just because that's where my passion was at. And yeah, I just totally feel like God answered my prayers. I was on vacation with my wife in Colombia. She's not native. She's from South America, and her and our daughter, we went down to there to visit them, and quite honestly, the Bellarmine position had opened up, the Division I school, and that's what I had kind of been visualizing in my head. Like, man, if that ever opens up, I'm going after it hard. I want that challenge. I know there's going to be other resumes I'm going to have to contend with, but I'm already in Kentucky, and hopefully, that I have it in there. But at the same time, this one opened up, and it was just kind of, I never really went after the Bellarmine thing. This one just seemed to make the most sense, and they were pursuing me, and that's a good feeling. It was nice to be on the other side of the table for once, and kind of be recruited, and yeah, I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky to be here and to have this opportunity. And but yeah, I mean the resources here are just so abundant. I mean, every kid, there's no kid that pays more than $4,000 a year to go to school at this institution, and that's tuition, room, and board. They get free textbooks. They get free laundry in the housing complexes. They get free parking. I mean, and that's not going to stop. Like just because there's a big influx of financial freedom here because of our online education program that has 18,000 students, and we only have like 2,000 on campus, but there's 18,000 students that never step foot on campus here, and all that money's coming in, and we're nonprofits, so we have to reinvest it into the institution, and so the employees are very well taken care of, and so are the student athletes or student body in general. You don't even have to be an athlete to get this, commitment scholarship deal that they're offering everybody right now. Like, I mean, for $4,000, you can't house and feed yourself for 9 months a year, anywhere. And on top of that, cost of living is cheap here. So I mean, there's so many opportunities, so many advantages to being a student here because we offer 8-week courses rather than you have to be in 16-week semesters. We never have class on Friday. Like, all of our athletic facilities are top of the line. So like, it's just, you name it. It almost sounds too good to be true. I even joked with Kraftic, like, man, I think we need to rename our mascot to the Unicorns because this ain't real, man. Like, this isn't real. But
Love the
obviously that's a
logo.
joke, but it is real. And if people do their research, they'll find out I'm spot on.
Well, if that whole stuff with JUCO eligibility not count, I still got one more year across country, so I know where I'm going as a 49-year-old in the fall.
Amen.
Coach, you talk about just kind of praying on the situation and kind of feeling like you've plateaued a little bit, and that's kind of Jimmy and I. After we have these conversations, we always are feeling reinvigorated in who we are and our identity as athletes, and helping people get connected with schools and universities. So we could totally relate with that. I'm curious, being in conference rival and them University of Cumberland's pursuing you, was it a tough decision? Was it a tough conversation to go to your athletes and your athletic director, and um, how is that relationship now?
Yeah, it was extremely tough. Again, it wasn't even really expected. It was just, kind of a blessing. No, it didn't. It was really hard.
Yeah.
And then it was about, okay, all the relationships I have, and if I do this, how do I do it the right way? So, I mean, it was just, from that point when it became a possibility, it was okay. How do I do this right? And I think I did. Willis Pooler is the athletic director at Lindsey Wilson. I mean, man, he mentored me for 12 years and helped guide me through a lot of hardships and a lot of tough things. And I love him. And he probably doesn't love me so much today. I mean, I hate that for him. But at the end of the day, I had to do what was best for me and my family. And this, it seemed clear. And now in hindsight, I know I made the right choice. And how I did that, I think from a coaching standpoint was I called every kid on my team, individually. I knew word was going to get out quick, but it probably took me three days to actually get to every kid on my roster and to have a one-on-one call. But the way I justified it to them was, look, you guys hear it from me every day. You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And how often have I pushed you out of your comfort zone? I just need you to take a second to think about how uncomfortable do you think I feel right now? Because I'm way outside of my comfort zone right now. If I wanted to stay comfortable, I'd have stayed right where I was. But that was something I told my boss too. Was like, look, I'm not doing this to you. I'm doing this to challenge myself. Like this is not at all normal, and I'm going to get an opportunity to start over, learn from my mistakes, and now I got to rebrand myself. I've got to rebrand myself, and that's what I'm in the process of doing, is learning from my mistakes that I made in another place. It's a lot harder to clean up some of those mistakes if the baggage stays there from one year to the next in terms of the stories and all the things that I may have screwed up or not done it to the level that I could have done it at. You get a fresh start at a new place where not really anybody knows you, man. They just know what you tell them or what they might have heard in terms of stories. But I got a fresh start, and I'm taking full advantage of it and not worried so much about winning. And that's all I worried about at Lindsey Wilson. I worried only about culture, not that I'm not a competitive, crazy person, because I am. But and as I get older, I'm just a lot more wise to, man, I can go the rest of my career and not win a national championship and I'll be okay. As long as I did right by the young man that I loved and hopefully loved me back, I'll feel good about however it all shakes out, but I'm still chasing that title.
Heck yeah. So let's get into chasing that national title. How is the rebranding going? How is the fresh start going? How is the season going for you? You're 4 years in. Is the culture where you want it? Is everything where you thought it would be? Are you ahead of where you thought? How is 2024, 2025 going?
I think I'm right on pace in terms of where I wanted to be right now. Aside from recruiting, I wish I was set up. I wish I'd have worked a lot more diligently there to set the program up for next year a little bit better, because I have an abundance of seniors right now and I'm going to lose a lot of leadership. So the culture is exactly where I want it. And I'm going to lose a lot of that culture. I'm going to lose a lot of the leadership of that culture anyway. So I'm a little bit not scared, but yeah, that's the easy word to use, right? I'm a little bit scared about what next year looks like when I'm bringing in, 15 new guys that aren't going to be able to learn from, the 10 guys that are leaving. That's a little bit scary for me, but that's part of the job too. Kids come and go. I don't go anywhere. I'm here for the long haul.
Go ahead, Jim.
Coach, you mentioned that recruiting and looking at your roster, it's very diverse all over the country. You mentioned a kid from Gilroy, California, and you also mentioned that Baylorman, I believe it is a Division I program starting in Kentucky. So what is your kind of net? Are you looking all over? Are you looking to keep those kids from Kentucky, get some kids up from Ohio, or is it the mindset we need leaders? We'll take whatever we can get as far as it doesn't matter where you're located.
It doesn't matter where you're located, no. But yeah, I want the total package, no doubt. I want the guys that care about going to class and they don't need me to hold their hand and tell them when to do it. I literally say that to every recruit. It's not my job to babysit you. I'm a wrestling coach at the end of the day, but we have very high standards and in terms of character and just, overall development. But yeah, we look everywhere. I mean, but obviously we're gonna know the Kentucky, situation pretty well, but that's pretty competitive, especially with Bellarmine now being a Division I option for these guys. And Kentucky's, one of the more desolate states in terms of depth, across the country. So we want more Ohio, we want more Illinois, Indiana, stuff like that. But we'll go anywhere, in terms of just finding the right fit. Um, so I mean, even internationally, I haven't dabbled in that a lot, and I'm hoping Coach Kraftik's going to free up some more I-20s for me to look into that, because I have a member of my coaching staff right now that competes internationally. Matter of fact, he left this morning to go to Croatia for a 10-day Greco camp, and his name is Miranda. Miranda's really connected internationally. He lived at the Olympic Training Center for 3 years, and I kind of got him from there. Well, it was, that's a longer story, but Randon's been on the Olympic ladder for quite a while, and he's chasing, making a world team. He's fell short, second, third a lot, during his 8 years of being on the, competing for the U.S. team anyway. So there's abilities there with Randon's connections that we could bring some, um, more freestyle focused. Greco doesn't really correlate to college wrestling as well. But Randon's also interested in bringing over a training partner for him to help him level up. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But yeah, California is a big recruiting bed too. I think everybody's got their, dips their toes in there a little bit, and we've got some prominent members, of our team from California as well.
So you mentioned those international athletes, and we've talked to Coach Souter. We know he does a good job of giving international students opportunities, and talking to a lot of the Division II coaches, running wise, we see it all the time with the international athletes. We don't see it too much on the wrestling side of things. Are you seeing it in the NAIA, or is that something where you see the other programs on campus utilizing that, and you're like, that's what wrestling's missing?
Yeah, I don't know if that's what wrestling's missing, but I just know, like, there's, obviously, man, there's a whole planet of wrestlers out there, and like not every country is prominent in it, but um, wrestling's very like a cult-like following, right? Like, it's either you love it or you don't care about it or you don't know anything about it. Um, but most of those international wrestlers that are, it's their life. Like, it's a lifestyle. They're not getting paid money, very, very, very lucratively anyway, to do it as well. So I mean, if they're competing at a high level, say, if there's a, whatever, Croatia, just because that's where Randon's at right now. If there's a Croatian that's, placing at U17s, yeah, I'm interested. Like, if he's even if he's not placing, if he's competing and winning matches on a world level, yeah, we can teach him the folk style rules and help him level up and help him become better. There's I was very focused on getting an RTC here. I was actually a board member for USA Wrestling the past 2 years. I gave up my seat because I was so after Miranda to lead my RTC, and it was kind of after almost 3 years of pursuing that, it was kind of obvious it wasn't going to happen. And then lo and behold, man, if it crazy, a week after I gave up my seat, Randon, reached out to me and said, "Coach, you still got that position open for me?" And I was like, yep, I do. I wish I'd have kept the perks of sitting in Colorado Springs with, Bruce Baumgartner and the boys, but I did give up that seat, and that's okay. But yeah, I mean, those are things that we have planned here, is to have a regional training center for USA Wrestling and provide more opportunities. We'll see where that goes. I'm very much focused on University of the Cumberlands and being the best folk style coach I can. But I'd be an idiot to not realize the potential to bring in internationals and letting them know, hey, we've got a folk style option for you, but we'll help develop you in freestyle and Greco as well.
Sitting here talking and listening, it's interesting with the amount of international students that we see on the cross country and track and field side. I wonder if it's an old head wrestling mindset to keep the push for folk style and not transition to college wrestling into freestyle because of the influx of international students that might come in if it were an international a freestyle style at the collegiate level. Now that I'm just sitting here running through my mind, brainstorming a little bit, my tinfoil hat wrestling conspiracy. There's my take for the day.
Hey, I like the tinfoil hat reference, first of all. Let's talk about aliens at some point.
Yes.
But, I think the other big difference is that, like those sports, like I think like track and field, soccer, swimming. There's probably others I'm neglecting. Their tennis. The rules are the same, like, but international wrestling versus college wrestling, they're not. So,
Yeah.
like, I think that's something that definitely has to get in the way.
Yeah.
And maybe the uncomfortableness of that too. International wrestling is 2-3 minute periods with a 30-second break in between. And college wrestling, there ain't no breaks. And it's an extra minute. And that's it is a different animal a little bit.
Absolutely. Coach, curious with your last 4 years at the Cumberlands and your time at Lindsey Wilson, have you had any experience with recruiting any New Jersey athletes? As Jimmy and I are both Jersey guys.
I haven't, and I'll tell you exactly why. It's the same reason I don't really dip into Pennsylvania, because I feel like I'm just going to be casting a fishing lure without, not a lure. I'm just casting a hook without any bait on the end of it. And that's naive, and maybe that's an excuse too. But it's just I don't have connections there, and I know that there's a plethora of opportunities for them to be a little bit more local. And So no, I've had two PA wrestlers in my career, and I've had not a single one from Jersey, to be honest with you. And I'd love for that to change.
Jim, we've got a mission for the 2025,
Yeah.
2026 recruiting campaign.
Mission accepted.
We got to get talk to Coach Nace, Coach Borowski, maybe Coach Ocone, Coach Nucci.
Yeah, for sure. Coach, you mentioned the the what's the word I'm looking for, Rich? Culture, creating the culture, right? But not always wanting to, we need to win, we need to win, we need to win. At what part did that come in? Was that just kind of with age and coaching, kind of becoming wise, realizing, hey, there's more to this than the wins, or was there something that kind of happened?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the age and the wisdom of it, and just reflecting. Like, I'm so big on reflection and owning my stuff and where did I go wrong, and not lying about it to myself. Even if I don't say it publicly, I make sure I'm telling myself where I could have improved, or what I did wrong. But yeah, it was definitely the biggest thing in terms of that shift, was that transition from Lindsey Wilson to here. Um, it had a lot to do with the program that I was taking over. They had just gone through a pretty traumatic experience, having lost a member of their team, like in a an accidental situation. So there were some heavy hearts here that needed healing, and yeah, man, the main thing was just like I knew, like, the culture that I had at Lindsey. It was very loving, but it was rigid, and it was 100% because I came in, stomping my fist on the table, and we're going to do things this way, and I was cursing and just not leading the way a good leader would lead. And granted, I got results, and I was I had a lot of success. Don't get me wrong, but I just knew I wasn't doing it right. I knew I wasn't doing it to the best of my ability. And despite maybe even changing some of those things over the last several years I was there, I just felt like it was going to keep going in the same direction, and there wasn't much I could do to stop it. And so when I hit the reset button here, it was like, all right, this is the way it's got to be, or I don't want to do this anymore. That's basically kind of what really flipped it for me was I was not happy in the coaching world anymore. I felt like, kids were too entitled, and maybe I wasn't recruiting the right kids, and I was chasing winning too hard. And so I stopped caring about winning as being priority number one. I wanted to build culture first and see if I can win with the right culture. And we're kind of doing that right now. But I know it's going to take a lot more for me too.
So what kind of kids are you looking for?
Man, I'm looking for the kids that are passionate about wrestling, that want to find out how good they can be. And, you know, maybe one way of saying that is they also don't want to accrue, $25,000, $30,000 of debt a year to go, wrestle for a Division I program. We're looking for D1 kids. Like, we're looking for that type of caliber of kid, but maybe the kid that, has D1 abilities, but doesn't want to, be at a school with 50,000 students, wants more attention, doesn't want to be in a classroom with 150 kids, a lecture hall, wants to be in a classroom where there's only 15 kids, and is going to have more intimate relationships with the professor, more intimate relationships with the, other people on campus, and not get, swallowed up. Like, because a lot of kids can get swallowed up if they don't find the right place. So, but like we're gonna take our kids to U23s, and we're gonna go to U.S. Open this year, even with a few guys. Like, we're gonna provide those big time opportunities that not every small school program does. Um, but yeah, man, I'm looking for the total package. I used to look for three things, like, and I didn't figure this out until, probably 8 years into my tenure at Lindsey Wilson, but I looked for passion for wrestling is a must. Some type of, like, I don't know if it's passion for education. Doesn't need to be passion. You just need to be a good student, be a 3.0 student, and make sure you're never ineligible, because I don't play with that. And the third thing was, you just got to be a good person. That's it. Like, high morals and ethics. If you have those three things, I know I can love you. I know I can work with you. I know I can help you. And then that makes my job enjoyable. But now there's a fourth thing. And that fourth thing is, you must be talented too. You must have some type of credibility and resume, where I'm not in a business anymore of just taking in walk-ons. You might have those three intangible things, but that's going to be the difference now, where I don't have to worry about taking in the walk-ons. Everybody can afford to go to school here. I'm looking for, I want to build an empire. That's it. That's what I've always wanted to build. I just didn't have the right ingredients, didn't have the right recipe, I should say. Now I got the right recipe, and it's on me to cook it, and mix it up the right way.
So you bring up you want Division I kids and kind of being able to say, hey, you're not going to acquire debt here. You mentioned before it's $4,000 a year to go to school there. When you bring that up to recruits, is that something that 18-year-old kids understand, or is that more the parents having to talk to them like, hey, you're gonna have to like take out loans, like we can go here and like you can get a summer job and pay for this?
Yeah, great question, because I think now that that's getting out, like, people that know it's only 4,000, like, I'm getting swarmed with, maybe kids that we're not recruiting. And so I'm having a lot more conversations with, look, we're just, like, we're not in that position right now, and to flood our roster. So we're being picky, but I think it is more the parents, because they do have a better understanding of that. From the athlete side, I don't think I think most kids, especially kids that you're recruiting that are talented, they want to hear there's a full ride on the table, like, they all dream of that, right? And maybe, you know, some of them deserve it, maybe some of them don't, but you know, bottom line here is it's the same for everybody, but we still do have the ability to offer a full ride. Um, you know, it's just that's not what I'm building my program on right now. I kind of want that. Look, you know, this is where we're at. If you want a full ride, go earn it, go win a title, and then we'll take care of you. You know, like that's, you know, there's always going to be exceptions to that, but it's a pretty easy selling point now, you know, financially, and that $4,000 is just student loans. You know, every kid's going to get $5,500 approved on their federal loans, if not more. They don't even have to take that all out. They don't even have to take it out at all if they want to pay out of pocket. But yeah, I mean, $4,000 a year, man. It's like we're giving away education for free here.
Rich, knowing what we know, 4 grand is like a full ride, isn't it?
Heck
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll get off the sales pitch thing here too. But like, if you qualify for work study, you can make $3,000, and you don't have to pay for textbooks. So there's another $1,000. Like it, if you qualify for work study and you're getting free textbooks, it's about the equivalent of a full ride at another institution.
Yeah, we got to get that Jersey pipeline going.
For sure. Yeah, we'll gotta
Let's go. Let's go.
Talking about, on the recruiting topic here, and we definitely want to make some intros with some Jersey coaches and see what we can do. We're just one of the reasons why Jimmy and I do this. We really genuinely, even though we jokingly say, creating that Airey Bros pipeline, if we can, make some connections and get some people from who we know in New Jersey to schools and universities, that's a win for Jimmy and I. But talking about what is the state of wrestling like in Kentucky? At the high school level. I know we've seen some names come through past couple of years at Fargo and things like that. Is it how many state champions are there? Is it two divisions, three divisions? I know some places have as many as six. What is the state of wrestling in Kentucky?
One. So
One. Okay. All
yeah,
right. Let's go.
it's one of the few. I think it's, California, Indiana, Kentucky,
Jersey.
and Jersey. I
Nice.
think that's it. I think it's those
Gotcha.
four. So I mean, and thank God, because
Yeah.
Kentucky's, like I said, they're not on the level of those other three states we're talking about.
Has it
But
always been one?
it has been, as
Okay.
far as
Cool.
I know, in the 20 years I've been here, it's always been one. And um, now when they do the state dual series, they've separated into. They started to separate like 15 years ago. They did a big school, small school.
Hmm.
And now this year, for the first time, I think they did a third division, just to provide more opportunities from the state dual meet standpoint. But the one state champion is still, and I hope that never changes. It never should change unless there's a big, growth here. But yeah, it's just one state champ.
Are there any, is it like Lexington or Louisville or any like little hotbeds where maybe there's some clubs and some bigger schools that are doing some good things?
There are. I mean, Trinity was historically, a really good program when I got here, and so was Woodford County. Was headed up by the Carr family. If you know Joe Carr, Joe, and Joe Jr. Brother Joe's brothers Nate and oh gosh, I'm not going to remember all their names.
Jimmy?
Big wrestling family and Jimmy. There you go. So Joe ran a powerhouse program here in Woodford County, and him and his son, and that they moved on from Woodford here a while ago and started their own wrestling academy. But the powerhouse program in Kentucky is Union County. That's where Stephen Little is from Union County. He's out at Little Rock, All-American out there, and the Irvin boys and the Rainey brothers who are world champion, Fargo champions. They're all coming out of Union County. Paducah Tillman's another program that's on the up, and well, they actually beat Union County for a state championship 2 years ago. But and there's other little pockets. Harrison County's doing a great job. Boyle County's doing a great job right now. They've got some young coaches that are alumnuses of Campbellsville, and you can tell that they're building programs, and getting hungry. So it's good to see. The college wrestling was really desolate here, 15 years ago anyway, and like University of the Cumberlands was like the first program to have one. I think they established in 1996. And then Campbellsville started, a few years after that. And then Lindsey Wilson came behind Campbellsville like 5 years later. And now you got Thomas More and Kentucky Wesleyan and Midway and Bellarmine and I'm forgetting somebody, I think, and I'm going to feel bad about that. But yeah, there's seven college wrestling programs in a state that's not very, prominent from a high school standpoint when you're comparing it to Ohio or Pennsylvania or Jersey or whatever. Um, so, but it's awesome too because we have a lot of high level wrestling taking place in the state, and at some point that's going to trickle into the high school programs, and the coaching should be enhanced.
Coach, last one I got for you, if you don't have anything before we get into the Final Four, Rich. You mentioned, that fourth intangible of you got to be able to wrestle, right? You want to have culture, you want to help kids for life, but you want to compete. And in NAIA, you have Grandview and you have Life, and those are the top two teams every year, year in and year out. How do you break in there? Well, what's your kind of mindset of how do we jump that? How do we get to those top two teams?
Well, I have to do it differently than they do. I don't live in Des Moines, Iowa, which is like the center of the college wrestling state, to be in. Maybe that's probably arguable, but wrestling in Iowa, man, it's on the news every day. I mean, it just is. And I'm not right outside of Atlanta, Georgia, so we're in Williamsburg, Kentucky, but we're right on the interstate, so it's a little bit of it's a small town with a little bit more of a big town vibe, and resources are like whatever. If you want to go to a movie, it's right here. So there's an Applebee's right up the road. So like that's not, you can't do that at every place, and I feel like that's an important thing. Like Indiana Tech's been kind of pretty high up there too. Like they're just outside of Fort Wayne, or they're in Fort Wayne. I think that's, quality of life is pretty important, and quality of life here is huge. But the difference from like with Grandview and Life, like those two programs in general they're on kind of an average system with their scholarships. So, those programs, if you go and look at their rosters, they've got darn near 100 kids on their team. I don't have to do that here in order to, get 40 hammers. I don't have to give one kid $1 and another kid a full ride. Like I said, everything is $4,000 across the board. And so what we have to do is recruit, and we got to, beat up the phones, and we got to get kids here on a visit. If you come look for yourself, you'll see, like, we've got some of the best resources you could possibly imagine. And, and I've got a great coaching staff. I got, guys from the Olympic Training Center, and I got a national champion as an assistant coach, and I got 3 other alumni here that are helping out. So I mean, we got basically 6 guys that are in full-time coaches. Now they're not. I'm full-time. My assistant's full-time, and I got 2 grad assistants, but I got 2 volunteer assistants right now that are working their butt off on a day-to-day basis, and that's important too. When you build that kind of a culture, you get people that want to stick around and help you coach and help build the program up into what my vision is, and they're getting on board with that. So. I mean, it's a shorter answer, Jimmy. Rich, it's just a shorter answer. But bottom line is you got to recruit. You ain't going to win if you don't recruit the right kids. I might be the best coach in the country, but if I don't have the talent in the room, there's not much I can do. And right now, Grandview and Life have an abundance of talent in their room. Their second and third squads can compete. With squads like ours, and that's what we're building here, man. I want to build a wrestling empire. I want Williamsburg, Kentucky on the map.
Well, you got 2 fans
You
here,
got 2
Coach.
fans for sure.
If
Coach,
not me, who else? Like, man, like I'm not gonna. I think there's a lot of coaches that have taken that I'm never gonna catch Grandview, kind of approach, and it's fair because I've been there in my boohoo moments, feeling sorry for myself. But man, that's a glorious challenge, and I got a long ways to go. I'm not there. I'm not going to get there tomorrow. Not going to get there a year from now, but I can if I follow the path. And and that's coming. At least I'm gonna give it my best effort.
Well, we're getting to that point of the season. We're getting close to conference and nationals and postseason sort of stuff. NAIA, you could take 12 individuals to nationals. Who are the Patriots that we should be keeping an eye on as we head into the postseason?
Um, Everybody that you see in the national ratings is my postseason guy. All 12 of our guys were rated in the last period. Well, pretty much all year, but we've had 16 different guys nationally rated throughout the year. I can submit 12 for each rating, but we've shuffled some in and out and trying to figure that out. So, we're starting to develop the kind of depth that, those other programs, that are at the top every year have. It's hard to sort out, the bodies of work for that last guy. So what we are putting in Malachi Harris for that last spot, he's a true freshman, 157 pounder. That hasn't been rated yet. So if he does get rated here this week, he'll be our, the 17th guy in our program this year that got in there. And so I'm really proud of that. I've never had a year where I've shuffled 17 guys in and out of the rankings. But the rankings kind of speak for themselves. I think that's, the body of work there. Our highest rated guys are Jace Lukau at 149 and O'Brien Black at 165. He's ranked 6th right now. And we got a couple other guys ranked 8th, some 9, 10, 11, guys like that, and some guys in the teens. So, on paper right now, we really only have like 2 guys that are projected to be All-Americans. And that's not gonna be enough to bring home a team trophy. We're a good dual meet squad. We need to be a better tournament squad. And that's kind of my job here is to kind of help level them up in the next 4 weeks to see if we can't, steal some of those podium spots and make some runs. And I think we got a handful of guys that can make a run at a title or at least put themselves really high up on that podium to score team points. But yeah, I'm being loving right now, but I'm being hard on them too. I'm up their butt right now about the little details and about stop feeling sorry for yourself. Like there's just no time for that. So face your fear and yeah, I could keep talking if you can't tell. I'm pretty good at talking, but we got a mental right now. My whole team is on a mental toughness call right now with Shawnee Harley. She's an extension of our coaching staff, and there's just a lot of little things that I'm doing too that I wasn't doing before, and spending program resources on or fundraising resources on to make sure I'm providing them all those opportunities, like providing them chocolate milk and Greek yogurt after practice every day, and providing them mental health counseling with a mental toughness coach, when they need it, and because at the end of the day, man, they're still 18 to 22-year-old kids, and maybe they're men, in society's rules, but their prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed until they're 25. And I know mine probably wasn't fully developed till I was 30. So
sometimes I don't know if mine still is yet.
yeah. So I mean, there's just a lot that goes into it, and I'm lucky enough that I get to be a part of their lives, and hopefully they'll have me for the rest of theirs, or the rest of mine anyway, because I'm sure I'll pass before they do. But yeah, I just hope I have lifelong relationships with them. I hope I get invites to their weddings and see pictures of their babies, and if I don't, then I know they don't like me so much.
Coach, I lied. I said I had one more before we get in the final four. I got one more because you kind of just gave us a little window, a little sneak peek of kind of where you're at right now. You mentioned that mental toughness call, and we know you guys had a tough duel this weekend. So, in your eyes, with that duel, you guys being the number 3 team, I believe it was Campbellsville was the number 10 team. Is it just an off performance? Just guys don't show up or they need to show up, or was it kind of an accumulation of everything just coming to a head?
Um, well, there's several ways to answer this, but for one, we didn't lose an individual match that we weren't supposed to on paper. National ratings wise, and we were missing our starting 184 pounder. He needed some more time to get ready for conference tournament this Friday. But yeah, I mean, I was disappointed that we didn't sting them in a couple spots. I was disappointed we, gave up bonus points where we did. Um, but at the end of the day, too, like I mentioned earlier, with where our ratings and stuff are, um, we're we're a really, really solid squad, but we may be lacking the high end kind of top ranked guys that can go seal it out. And Campbellsville's got more than us right now. Like in terms of we're ranked third in the country, but the way the ratings come out, it's just basically like if you're ranked number one, you get 25 points. If you're ranked number two, you get 24 points, et cetera, et cetera. Look, we've got a really good team where we're getting points from all 12 guys we enter. But if you got a team that's got, three guys ranked in the top, three of the country and nobody else, you might score more points than us at nationals. You know how that works with the team scoring stuff. So, not unfortunately, but, right now our team's got, I'll say it this from last year. Last year we had two All-Americans and we went 1-4 in the blood rounds. Okay. So we could have went, if we could have went 5-0, we might have brought home a team trophy. And we might be in a similar situation this year. Like that's possible. Maybe we got more than that in the blood rounds because that's kind of if you look at the ratings, that's where we're at. But man, ratings, it don't matter when we get out to Wichita. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. We're going to get an opportunity, to see if we've, made some gains, as us versus Campbellsville, on Friday. And I would expect that we have, but, I'm not naive. The nice thing is this is the first time in my career, too, we get almost 3 weeks between the conference tournament and nationals where I know I feel like that's advantage me. I get an extra week of preparation for nationals that most conferences don't. And I feel like that's really going to help enhance our abilities to outperform our current ratings and our wherever we'll be seated. So
Well, Coach, I appreciate the insight. We could pick your brain all night, but you've already been super generous with your time. So, Rich, you want to get in the final four?
Let's do it.
Coach, are you a coffee drinker?
yep, straight black. I'm not like all technical with the beans and grounding my own beans, but yeah, just coffee grounds and straight black. I might put a little creamer in there once in a while, but I usually just as a reminder that I don't like creamer.
They've never gone to Starbucks with Coach Souter.
I have not gone to Starbucks. My wife loves Starbucks, and she's going to get every added sugary thing possible. No, I like my coffee pretty black, pretty much black, and pretty strong.
All right. We can get down with that.
Yep.
Coach, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Corey Ruff?
I'm not. I'm a little more fly by the seat of my pants, but yeah, I mean, like every morning, first thing I do is I want to win. I want to win. I want to start off with a win, so I'm going to go probably down 24 ounces of water before I start with that coffee. I'm going to pray at some point before I either, before I leave the house or, soon after I get into the office. I'm gonna pray then, and we pray every day after practice. As a program, it's not like forced on everybody, but I just think it's a healthy thing to do. It's not daily, but I do meditate and I visualize a ton. Um, not that I'm a yoga guy per se, but I do enjoy that type of ability to decompress and let my body recover, let my mind recover. Um, so yeah, and just hugging my girls, hugging my wife and my daughter. I've got a 9-year-old daughter. She just turned 9 on Saturday, and my wife, and just making sure I hug them once a day, and maybe not do it every day, but I would say that would be as close to my ritual as you're going to get.
With the explosion and growth of women's wrestling, is there a headgear and a singlet in your daughter's future?
Yeah, she actually just put a singlet on for the first time this year.
Okay.
And man, that was a wonderful experience. It really was. She's scared of it big time. She's nervous and she's 0-4 in her young career, wrestling all boys. And but she's way better than she's shown because I've seen it. Like we have a little club here, a youth club here, and I've seen it. She kind of has her way with the youth club. Everybody in our youth club, but they don't have any experience either, right? So it's not a good gauge. But I know she can compete with those boys, but I didn't really teach her how to bridge yet. I haven't really taught her how to fight off her back. And she's so scared. She was so scared at the Kentucky Youth Tournament this last weekend or weekend before now. But man, I'm just smiling from ear to ear. I'm not rah rah like in her butt and like just I'm not going to force her to hate it. Like it's her choice. Either she wants to do it or she don't. I'm going to encourage it here for a few years, and then it's going to be her choice on whether or not she wants to do it. But yeah, I think she wants to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think all the really good wrestlers that we know all had that first bad season where they barely got any wins, and then they
Yeah.
came back with vengeance.
Well, that's just it. I get to show her. I don't care. I'm just glad you're smiling. I'm glad you're hugging me afterwards. She's not throwing a fit. She's not throwing her headgear. Like that kind of stuff. And yeah, I get to be a part of that journey, and that's really exciting for me. And our women's program has just been awesome for her. They let her in the room whenever she wants to be there. Whereas, like, I've told our coach, I was like, look, if I had a son, there's no way I'd let him in my room. Not at this age. He'd just be a distraction for my team, and I'd feel guilty. But they welcome her there. They love her. They treat her so good. So she's gotten such a fantastic first year experience into the sport. She just doesn't have the wins, and maybe that'll come this summer when she's wrestling freestyle and just wrestling girls only. Who knows? But
Yeah,
It's got
definitely
to be
game
huge to have
changer.
a women's program around that she can see and look up to and
right,
have them kind of foster her. And I'm sure there's plenty of girls in the room too that grew up where they, in a state where they probably had to wrestle more boys than they wrestle girls, and they can kind of
yeah,
bring
yeah.
her
It's
through
just
that
she's
experience.
so lucky, and she don't even know it. She plays softball too, and the softball team's really similar. They love her, and it's like, my God, I can't imagine myself at that age having college athletes influence me. Crazy.
Good for her.
Coach, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
I'm a diehard Pearl Jam fan, big into the grunge scene. But man, the podcast thing has really taken over for me a lot. But yeah, I'm a rock and roll guy at heart, and I still, will tune into radio, some music when I need it. But oh my gosh, podcasts are never ending. Um, Flow wrestling, anything Ben Askren says, I'm listening just because I'm intrigued by his wizardry. Man, he's just he's a student of the mind, not only the sport, but but yeah, Joe Rogan, and I don't really necessarily get into the comedians when he's got them on there. I'm into the science, I'm into the aliens, I'm into that kind of stuff. Danny Jones. I mean, gosh, I got into Jocko Willink for quite a while, Jordan Peterson, but yeah, I even dabble into Lex Friedman, but some of that stuff's over my head. But yeah, I'm big into podcasts.
Coach, I've been getting into the Danny Jones podcast lately too. He's got some really interesting guests, so we're on the same wavelength with some of
He's my
the
favorite. Yeah,
I
he's
don't
my
even know
favorite.
who Danny Jones is now. I gotta
I
go.
I sent you his one episode. It was like one of the like lost history ones.
All right, I'll have to check it out.
This is the Daily Stoic. I
Hmm.
just got sent
Ryan
this to me.
Holiday, yeah.
I'm not a I'm not a huge book reader. I would rather cheat and get an audiobook or you know, uh, watch a YouTube video to learn. But yeah, like my YouTuber algorithm is there's no wrestling on there. I save that for flow. I don't want to screw up my algorithm. Uh, but yeah, it's literally nothing but like visualization, meditation, like I want to learn more about the Bible, stuff like that, and then podcasts. So
Coach, do you get down with Joe Dispenza at all?
I do not.
I will
I
send you a meditation. He's like a
please.
manifestation guy, but his one breath work meditation, it will get you there for sure. I'll send it to
Oh,
you.
please do. Please
Yeah.
do. You ever try the Wim Hof breathing techniques?
Every every day. I've even passed out and banged my head pretty good at certain points.
Awesome. Yeah, please send me that. I'm so intrigued to learn stuff about that.
I
Just
will.
any type of personal growth and to help me calm myself is beneficial.
Yes.
Awesome. Coach, last one we got for you. It's a little bit lighthearted. It could be food, maybe a beverage. You got a daughter, maybe you're a closet Swiftie. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Ah, Copenhagen long cut.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, man. I guess that's like just been kind of an obstacle for me to quit my nicotine and tobacco. But yeah, uh,
I hear you.
I've stayed disciplined the last hour of my life.
Coach,
Uh,
I sympathize and empathize with you. I have a very unhealthy relationship with nicotine and tobacco. I've finally gotten myself off the Zins the past since before Christmas, and I haven't had the urge to go into back to the skull, but
Good.
I
I
can
just had a
empathize
former
with you.
athlete go through something bad off of Zyn. I don't know why, but
Really?
yeah, like, and just like to be careful with that stuff. I'm glad I
Mm.
never went that route, but yeah, like, yeah, we can maybe talk a little bit more off air about that if
Sure,
you,
sure. Yeah.
but yeah, man, I don't, my guilty pleasures, like just learning and trying to become my best self. Like I'm a work in progress, but I've told people I feel like I'm like fine wine. I just get better with age in terms of being a better coach, a better role model, a better leader, and just a better person. And I'm still discovering who that guy is. So
Well, we love it. Jimmy and I are already fans of the Cumberlands and all that it got going on with the athletic department. But like you said earlier, there's a lot of synchronicities and a lot of things that you've said that definitely resonate with Jimmy and I in terms of parallel paths and different things. So we do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us and sharing the program with us. And we look forward to following y'all as you head into conference and postseason. And we'll be wearing our blue and red and loving the logo and cheering for y'all at nationals.
awesome. I'll get some t-shirts out to you guys too.
We will wear them with pride.
For sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we do appreciate Coach Ruff coming on, sharing his story with us tonight. If you do feel so inclined, you have an athlete that is looking to get a great education and wrestle for a great program and go a little light on the wallet, definitely check out Williamsburg, Kentucky, and Coach Ruff and the University of Cumberlands. They're doing some great things down there. We will be back tomorrow night. We're going back onto the cross country course, back onto the indoor track, the outdoor track. Isaac Wood from Salt Lake Community College will be joining us. They are the two-time defending junior college national cross country champions. So we will see you all tomorrow night. Thank you all for coming out and joining us tonight. Until next time, much love.